Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. It's so great to see everybody. My name is Mary Francis. I am one of Evolution Wellbeing's Qigong students. I'm going to do the postures seated today so that you can see how we modify when we need to. If you are familiar with these exercises, please feel free to do these exercises standing. The only difference, well, there are more differences than this, but the main difference, obviously, when you're standing, your feet are going to be parallel, so the toes aren't going to be pointed out and toes aren't going to be pointed in, and they're going to be about hip width, shoulder width distance apart. Okay, so if you're doing these exercises standing, once again, the feet are going to be parallel, so no toes pointing in, no toes pointing out, and they're going to be about hip width, shoulder width apart. Okay, so we're going to start out with our warm-up exercises today. We're going to open up to the left, settling into the space, breathing in and out through the nose. The tip of the tongue is touching the roof of the mouth, connecting the front of the body with the back of the body. We're settling into the space, settling into this moment, letting our thoughts go, knowing that this is a chance for our brains to rest. We get these next 30 minutes to let go and just focus in on the breath. Taking the hands in loose fists, we're going to twist the torso from side to side, gently tapping the body, letting the vibrations start to wake up the tissues. And then gradually, we're going to come on up the torso. The opposing arm is coming to the opposite shoulder. The lead arm is going to the opposing shoulder. Stay nice and relaxed. And then gradually coming back down. And coming back to the center. Widening the stance. We're going to tap the inner thigh and then up at the hip. Opening up the channels in the lower half of the body now. We're transitioning. If you like, you can widen your stance further. We're tapping down the inner aspect of the thigh, the yin channels of the leg, going all the way to just above the ankle or wherever it's comfortable for you. Then switching to the lateral aspect of the leg, tapping back on up. Once you get to the hips and the glutes, sliding that left foot a little closer to the right, still maintain that hip width shoulder width distance, and then continuing up to just underneath the rib cage, waking up the low back, before then placing the palms at the low back, circling down the sides and up the spine. We're warming the tissues of the low back now. Warming that kidney energy. Resting the palms at the low back, closing the eyes. Inhaling. Guiding the breath through the nose, down into the torso, meeting with the palms. Exhaling, allowing the body and mind to relax. Inhaling through the nose, guiding the breath and the chi to the low back, allowing the kidneys to fill up with energy. And exhaling, allowing that energy to flow to wherever it's needed within the body. Taking a few more inhales and exhales at your own pace. Allowing the breath to fully enter the body. Allowing the breath to leave freely. Allowing the chi to gather at the kidneys before then flowing to wherever it's needed within the body. And when you're ready, gently opening the eyes, letting the arms come back down to the sides, and closing by bringing that left foot back to the right. We're working on our Golden Eight series. So we're going to start out with the lung and large intestine exercise, reach for happiness. We're going to open, inhaling as we gather, exhaling down to the lower dantian, inhaling up to the breastbone, exhaling, palms facing the earth, inhaling all the way up, exhaling, inhaling one more time, and exhaling, coming back to the earth. Continuing on, working at your own pace. Getting ready to close. Closing. Opening for our second exercise, the Archer exercise for the heart and small intestine. Opening, inhaling, and exhaling. The extended arm, the palm is flat, inhaling, and exhaling. Continuing on, allowing the breath to guide the movement. Allowing the mind's eye to sink into that breath. And getting ready to close. Closing. Opening for our third exercise, between heaven and earth, for the spleen and stomach. Inhaling and exhaling. In and out. Inhaling and exhaling. In and out. Inhaling and exhaling. In and out. Continuing at your own pace. And getting ready to close. Closing. Our fourth exercise for the Sanjiao system. Opening, turn and look back. Inhaling, exhaling, in and out. Inhaling and exhaling. Getting ready to close. closing. Our fifth exercise for the liver and gallbladder, twist and release. Opening. Inhaling. And exhaling. In. And out. And closing. Our sixth exercise for the kidney and urinary bladder, we have Bend for Health. Opening. Inhaling. Exhaling. In. And out. Inhaling. And exhaling. In. Out. Inhaling back to standing or sitting. Continuing on at your own pace. Allowing yourself to connect with all the movements. Allowing them to flow together. Getting ready to close. Closing. Our seventh exercise for the Ren channel, the conception vessel, the energy punch exercise. Opening. Inhaling. Exhaling. In. And out. Getting ready to close. Closing. And our final exercise is the Golden Eight, the energy jump exercise for the dew channel, the governing vessel. It's in 2 parts. And I'm going to do more of the mental aspect of it, the mind's eye aspect of it for the first part and the second part. So, inhaling, opening, inhaling as you feel your energy elevate, exhaling as you allow it to come back to the earth. Part 2, inhaling and exhaling. And closing. Now we're going to do our facial rejuvenation exercises. Keeping the legs close together, the feet close together, as close as is comfortable for you. Bringing the palms together and rubbing them. Transferring some of this wonderful chi to the palms. And then washing the face 9 times. Wiping above the brow and under the eye 9 times. Wiping the entirety of the nose 9 times. And then our circles inward and outward 9 times each, at the base of the nose, the middle of the nose, and up at the very top, the corner of the eye. And imagining underneath the pupil at the cheekbone, there's a little divot, inward and outward 9 times each. Dredging the channels of the scalp using all the fingertips 9 times. Beating the drum 9 times. And grasping the ears. Popping the cork 9 times. And then 1 fingertip on the filter and the other on the mandibular crease, inward and then outward 9 times each. And then massaging the jaw 9 times each side. Now our number changes to 12 times total, or 6 times each side, rushing down the throat. Continuing to draw the energy down from the head into the body, rushing down the breastbone, 12 times total, or 6 times each side. Placing the palms at the lower dantian, gathering the energy into the lower dantian by circling up the right and down the left 9 times. And then concentrating that energy 9 times, going up the left and down the right. Resting the palms at the lower dantian, closing the eyes. Inhaling, guiding the breath and the chi down to the lower dantian, allowing it to fill up with energy. Exhaling, allowing that energy to settle and store so that you may use it throughout the rest of your day. Inhaling, gathering all that wonderful chi that you've been cultivating over the past half hour into the lower dantian. Exhaling, allowing that energy to settle and store. Inhaling, guiding all that wonderful chi to fill up the lower dantian. And then exhaling, allowing the mind to relax, the body to relax, and the chi to settle. Thank you all so very, very much. Happy, happy Friday. Henry, will you please take over for our Chi Chat?
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Mary Frances. Doing great. Always getting better.
Yes.
So yesterday we talked about how 5 elements respond to life events, like challenging life events. And we've been talking about 5 elements in general, and in particular about fire. So you might be wondering, well, what element am I? Okay. Well, we all have all the elements, right? Depending on which situation, certain parts of ourselves will come up. But each of us tend to have like a dominant element, like a primary, and a secondary. Basically, primary is like the one that you default to when you're not quite sure. So in uncertainty, the one that you default to is usually your primary. And most of us also have a secondary element. So even though we all have all these 5 elements, they're in varying degrees of proportions based on individual. And so our unique, I guess, composition of these 5 elements is what makes us unique, right? So some of us may have like 2% fire, 30% wood, 20% water, or something like that. And that'll be very different for each person. So I'd like to let you ruminate a little bit on what elements you might be. I think we'll be talking a bit more about that for this Sunday's Social Sunday, as we can discuss and think about what elements you may be. In the meantime, I'm going to give you a few more tools to understand these five elements and how they interact. So today I want to talk about why fire is so important. Since we are in the early fire season, we've been talking about fire. If you look at fire in nature, right, and you look at how plants are growing towards the sun. We get nourishment from the sun. We grow towards the light. It provides us warmth. And same thing with human beings. If you think about building a campfire, naturally everyone's going to come towards the campfire and hang out. So fire is very important in all of our lives, regardless of whether we have a little bit of fire or if that's our primary element. Okay. So it's important to think about these elements in a very human way, how we interact with each other with it. So fire is very necessary for all of us, regardless of the element that we are. And we can sort of go down the line in terms of that 5-element cycle and see how each element actually interacts with the fire. Okay, so for example, the wood element, okay, remember that this is about passion and anger, as well as about focus. So fire tends to be a little bit scattering, okay, but also wood turns to fire, right? That's what we call the generating cycle. You burn wood and that becomes fire. So too much fire for the wood person, someone who's like trying to be focused, trying to get things done. Fire could be a little bit challenging because the fire person is like jumping around and the wood person is like, okay, I got to focus here. Okay. But at the same time, the wood really enjoys the companionship or the friendship with someone who's fire because it lets them relax a little bit, right? Also allows them to focus and basically it fuels the fire. It provides a basis for fire. But at the same time, too much fire is a little bit destructive for the wood element. So if you have a lot of wood energy, a little bit of fire is great for you. Whether you're trying to generate your own fire, meaning you can do like fire activities, like, socializing, you eat like fire related foods. But it's also about like hanging out. Like this is all about socializing. So hanging out with people who have a lot of fire. Okay, but wood, you have to be really careful. If you are trying to focus in and get something done, you probably don't want to hang out with too much fire at the moment. You want to just like, okay, stay away. I'm going to lock myself up or hang out with other people who are also focused, other people who tend to have a lot of wood energy. Okay. So if you're a fire person, how do you interact with fire? Well, fire creates more fire. So it could become one big explosion of fire. So you do have to be careful about that too, because it's very scattering. But at the same time, it could be a lot of fun, right? So it depends on where you are in your life. In some ways, that fire could be very helpful. In other ways, you got to be careful. So in terms of the earth, earth is about nurturing. You think about the emotion of earth, that's worry and sympathy. Okay, but it's about nurturing others, and that's why that's where the worry comes from. Is you're worried about other people, you're worried about your loved ones and your family, and so there's a healthy amount of worry. But the fire kind of brings that spark of life into someone who may be worrying too much, who may be stuck at home. So they may just need to go socialize and party or hang out. And so that's where the fire can be really good for someone who also has a lot of earth energy. Okay. In terms of metal, metal is about the elements, the organs of the lung and large intestines, about sadness, grief, and compassion. And especially for metal, if you think about it in real life, right? When you put fire to metal, metal melts or becomes softer. And sometimes that's great for someone who's metal, because metal people tend to be a little bit more aloof and distant. And sometimes they just need like a hug, even though they might not say they want one. Okay, they might be very cool to you. They're like, I'm too good for this kind of stuff. All right. They do need a hug. They enjoy that hug from time to time. They may not like it all the time, but they like that connection. They like that appreciation. They like to have a little bit of fun too. So that fire can melt some of that metal, make it a little bit softer or more malleable. And sometimes the metal enjoys that because they can be a little bit too, they have like sometimes too high standards and they tend to be more perfectionists. And so that fire like kind of comes in and messes things up a little bit, but in a good way usually. But again, like the wood, you have to be careful. Too much fire, then you become a puddle of liquid metal. And that's not so good either, because then all your you know, aloofness or boundaries, there's a certain reason why you have those things. So you have to watch out. There's pros and cons, okay? So like that yin and yang, you want to find that S-curve balance for yourself. Not too much, not too little, okay? And in terms of water, okay, water actually is what controls fire from having it go out of control. So on one hand, if you have a lot of fire, you may not enjoy a water person as much because they're always thinking about the deeper meaning of life, and fire just wants to have some fun in the moment. Okay, so fire is not always this flaky, but I'm sort of giving you a little bit more of the quintessential aspects of what these elements they're trying to go towards. So the fire can be put out by the water, but the water can provide it the wisdom, right? So a more balanced person who has fire would enjoy water. And at the same time, the fire can warm the water, right? Because sometimes the water can get really deep into its own fear. So remember, the emotions of water is fear and wisdom, okay? So it does tend to dwell in the fear because it thinks about these bigger things. Well, what if this happens? What if that happens? All right, but that's more of an out of balance water. More balanced water would be able to see that fear and not be frozen by it, and be able to see the wisdom behind it and move on. Okay, and the fire can help that because, like I said, it can freeze. Like fear freezes you, right? Like the deer in headlights. So the fire can sort of say, hey, you know, it's not so bad. You know, we still got each other, and you know, so it helps transform that icy water into more of a warm water, and the warm water can flow, right? Icy water freezes, it gets stuck. So the fire is there to help get things moving. And overall in Chinese medicine, fire is really essential to really get things going, keep things flowing. And that's the essence of health, is when things continue to flow. If you've ever had an acupuncture treatment, usually we use heat lamps, okay? And so that brings a little bit of fire to help warm the channels, to get the energy flowing in the body, and to help reinforce what the acupuncture points are doing. And in diet, we tend to reinforce more of a diet that's not cold. Warm foods tend to be really good for the body. And also when we do our closing practice, when we're storing energy, okay, into that lower dantian, we call that the gate of life, that lower dantian area. And we're storing that energy, and that energy is fire, okay? So that helps with the metabolism of the body, it helps things flow. That's what makes us alive, is that internal fire. It's kind of like the engine of a car, right? You have the fuel, but the engine is this power plant. It transforms using fire, right, to transform that into energy. And same thing with us, it's kind of an engine. The fuel itself is not going to do anything for you. You need that spark of life, that fire, to get things moving. So hopefully you got something out of this talk. So just give you more insight into why fire is so important for all the elements, and why fire also needs all the elements to sustain itself. So we hope to see you tomorrow. Tomorrow is our longer day. And
Christina had a question on
yes.
the liver gallbladder exercise.
Oh, I think she was asking about, let's see, about the liver gallbladder, how to do it. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, so the liver gallbladder exercise, if you can reference our YouTube videos, I won't be able to explain it today, but if you can reference our earlier YouTube videos, especially the early ones, like day like 3 to 10 on our YouTube channel, that's a great way to get started. on that, and then we can work on it once Mary Frances' toe gets better. Which is there little toe?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Little toe is the bladder channel. All right.
Yes. Yes. And it's creeped over into the gallbladder channel.
Oh, gallbladder channel. Okay.
Yes. And I hit it again yesterday.
Oh, just for fun?
Oh yeah, I know. It was so funny. Sean, my husband, put this barrier around the chair legs so that I couldn't go near it now.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was special. Clearly there's a lesson I'm trying to learn.
Oh, right. You try to access that water.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow at 8:15. See you then.
Thank you.